What's the most haunting what if you still carry with you? I've lived with a question for over a decade now, one that slips into my thoughts when the world goes quiet. It doesn't matter how much time passes or how many times I try to reason with myself, it still lingers. My what if began on an ordinary summer evening, the kind of day you'd never expect to hold the rest of your life inside it. I was 17, restless, and ready to be anywhere but home. My best friend Daniel had called earlier that afternoon. We'd grown up across the street from each other, the kind of kids who built forts in the woods, biked through the neighborhood until the streetlights came on, and swore we'd always be brothers even if life took us in different directions. But during that summer, something had shifted. I could feel it in him. He had been quieter, moodier, carrying a weight he never fully explained. Sometimes I caught him staring off, lost in his head. I asked if he was okay, and he always shrugged with that lopsided smile. "I'm fine," he'd say, and I let myself believe it. That day, he called to ask if I wanted to hang out. Nothing special, just to drive out by the lake, maybe grab food, maybe just talk. But I'd already promised another group of friends I'd meet them at a bonfire later. I told him, "Maybe tomorrow, man. I'm busy tonight." There was a pause, longer than usual. Then he said, Yeah, no worries. Tomorrow then." His voice cracked just slightly, so soft I almost missed it. We hung up and I didn't think much of it. That night at the bonfire, I laughed until my sides hurt. I remember the sparks rising into the dark sky, the music, the warmth of being surrounded by people. My phone buzzed once, then again. I glanced at it. Daniel's name lit up the screen. I told myself, I'll call him back later. He'll understand. I slipped the phone into my pocket and went back to the noise and light. I never called back. The next morning, everything was different. Daniel was gone. He'd been in an accident, a single car crash on the winding road out by the lake. No one knew why he was out there alone. Some said he'd lost control on a curve. Others whispered about things too dark for me to repeat. But the truth is, no one had answers, just silence. And in that silence, the question rooted itself inside me. What if I had gone with him? What if I had answered the phone? I replay it endlessly. If I had said yes when he asked to hang out, would we have driven out together? Would I have been in the passenger seat, convincing him to slow down, maybe even taking the wheel myself? Would we have pulled over to talk like we always did, sitting on the hood of his car, watching the stars, instead of him being out there alone? Or, and this is the darker possibility, would I have been in the car when it went off the road? Would there have been two funerals instead of one? That thought terrifies me as much as the first, because the what if cuts both ways. What if my choice spared me, but doomed him? What if my presence would have changed everything, or nothing at all? At his funeral, people told stories about him, his laugh, his kindness, the way he could make even the shyest kid in the room feel included. His mother hugged me so tightly I could hardly breathe. She said, "He always loved you like a brother." I nodded, biting my tongue, because all I could hear in my head was that last phone call, that pause before he said, "Tomorrow then." For years, I carried it like a secret punishment. I didn't tell anyone how often I thought about it, how much I hated myself for choosing a bonfire over a friend. I convinced myself that maybe if I'd been there, everything would be different, that maybe I'd failed the one person who trusted me most. Time has dulled the edges of that guilt, but it hasn't erased it. I went on to college, built a career, made new friends, but I noticed little things, how I can never ignore a ringing phone now, how I go out of my way to check in on people even when they say they're fine. It's like a scar woven into the fabric of who I am. Some nights when I drive past the lake road, I imagine pulling over. In my mind, I see Daniel sitting on the hood of his car, grinning like he used to. I imagine sitting next to him, talking about nothing and everything, like the future is still wide open. And then reality seeps back in, and I realize that all I'm left with is a story that never happened. That's the thing about what ifs. They don't fade, they don't resolve. They echo louder in the quiet moments. And no matter how many years pass, I know I'll always wonder, what if I had just said yes?